is Friday the 21st of April 2023. Wow, time marches on. So in the news over the evening yesterday, we've had a monumental cock-up by Elon Musk, which resulted in an unhinged deapparition of pieces on Twitter, where he removed everyone's blue tick. Was there something else? Also, oh yeah, he launched a space rocket that blew up as well. But the blue tick thing's really interesting because someone pointed this out. Imagine if you could get LeBron James to write free content for your site. Imagine if we could get LeBron James to come on this show and give his time freely to us to promote our platform, essentially, to create content on this platform. You'd at least give him a blue tick, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Anyone with kind of like common sense would do that, but not Elon Musk. He's too busy blowing up £2 billion space rockets into the sky 4 minutes after launch. Another proof that public-private partnerships rarely end well. A big shout out to everyone there this morning. We've got Simon, we've got Nick and Diff, we've got Lee Korn. Morning, I'm back after being ill yesterday. Did I miss out? Well, you can watch yesterday's video about ULEZ and the Tories essentially taking themselves to court. That Phil did, which is a good little video for you to watch, even if you don't live in London. And also, it's interesting this because just before I came on, I was reading the story about this sewage-soaked field. Right, so it's been soaked sewage by United Utilities, who are the monopoly that runs the water and the sewage systems in the northwest. It's United Utilities or nothing. You can't have any other company. It's privatised, so you have competition and choice. Yeah, but you can only have United Utilities. Anyway, United Utilities have pumped so much human effluent into this area that a field that was earmarked for the creation of a new woodland has been declared unfit for human habitation, essentially, or woodland habitation, or any kind of habitation, because the ground is too toxic because of all of the sewage that the Tory sewage party has allowed through Brexit to be pumped into our rivers and streams and water concourses. It's water courses, sorry. Water courses. So this is really interesting because I don't know if you know Gemma Forte, who does the Troll podcast with Marina Purkis, but she was on the TV the other day, and you had a Brexiteer saying that these rivers were polluted before we left the EU. No, they weren't. A lot of beaches in the UK had the top status of cleanliness. Now, like, none of them have, almost. I mean, the cliff edge that we've got off because of Brexit and our standards of just not pumping gigalitres a day of human effluent into our rivers is, it's a cliff edge. What can I say? Anyway, so Lee Korn has written, and apparently United Utilities have been pumping raw sewage into a field next to where I grew up, which I assume he's talking about this particular bit of council-owned land that they intended to turn into a woodland off Otterspool Road. And yeah, it's essentially, they can't do it because of all the pollution that the evil privatised water companies have been pumping into all the sewage, the pollution, the toxic, deadly sludge that they've been putting into our otherwise pristine water courses. Yeah. And they're allowed to do that because this government allows them to get away with it. So the big news story, obviously, was that Dominic Raab hasn't been sacked. Yeah, so we'll get into that in a moment. Just a few more messages before I do. Thanks, Plum Duff. Feeling a bit better today, says Lee Korn. I hope you're feeling better as well. We are only tenants on this planet. We have a responsibility to future generations not to cover it in sewage, says Plum Duff. That's a novel idea, Plum, I've got to say. Bit revolutionary. Let's not trash the place. When I turn up to somewhere, my first instinct, being part of the Bullingdon Club, is let's trash this restaurant. Let's trash these people's lives. Let's trash the economy. So the idea of like leaving something in a better state than you found it, that's completely alien to me. But it's archived if you wanted to check it out. It was rather amusing. That's Mark Welch. I don't know what the Mark Welch is talking about there. I can't see his previous message, so yes. Hi everyone. Hi Graham. Maybe he's talking about the blue ticks. Maybe he's talking about the blue ticks are archived, so you can actually search for people using the blue tick search function on Twitter. Putin's been sending ships or subs armed with armed soldiers around our wind farms, going to attack us to force buy his oil. Yes, another act of war his Tory puppets will do nothing about. 2004. Yeah, I mean, the Tories are in lockstep with Russia, and I will absolutely 100% state on the record that I believe that Putin would not have invaded Ukraine in the way that he did had it not been for Brexit. You can talk about Trump as well, but Trump came after Brexit, after proving that Cambridge Analytica could swing a referendum or an election. Something that they pioneered in developing nations first. They interfered in the elections in Nigeria a year before the Brexit referendum. They interfered because they wanted to test out their models in order to see if they could corrupt the democracies of the global north, I guess. Lee Cole says they were polluted before we joined the EU. Now they're polluted after we left the EU. What a coincidence. Plumdove says HS2, complete waste of money. Well, I'm a bit torn about HS2 because, as you know, I'm a big fan of the railways, and I wish that we would just dig up all of our motorways and replace them with railways. Get on the train and then make the trains really cheap. In fact, make them free. That's what I would just make them free. I mean, it's a net gain to have to get people around the country. But the fact is that you can look at an entire motorway jammed full of cars. Look at the Mancunian Way in Manchester. It's end-to-end cars all stacked up on a Friday evening at 5 o'clock. All stacked up. You could fit all the people in those cars into a single train. Yeah. Specifically on the Mancunian Way. But, like, that's insane. Get them on trains. Get everyone on trains. Get trains everywhere. However, the way they've gone about HS2 has been hilariously bad. But then again, it's the Tories in charge of the country, so what do you expect? I've already spoken about the fact that I think that we should have a low-speed rail. Instead of HS2, we have low-speed 2 or low-speed 1, where we make train tracks for the goods trains, specifically for the goods trains and the regional trains, which only need to trundle along at 35 miles an hour. And you can leave the fast trains going 125 miles an hour going between the cities. 125 miles an hour is fast enough. We're a small country. We don't need trains that go at 100 that go at 300 miles an hour for the simple reason that they can only get up to that speed for about 5 seconds, and then they have to start slowing it down again because they're going to hit the next station. Well, not hit it, hopefully, but stop at it. Plumduff, what's the point of HS2 if it doesn't even go to London? Well, yeah, I think that they need to finish the bit that they've done from London to Birmingham, but from Birmingham to the north, I think that money could be spent more intelligently on more lines instead of just having, which I think is what the Green Party are proposing. We're saying we want loads of new lines, just not in the way that the HS2 is being built. Because, yes, although there will be trees maybe knocked down to build slower lines, you don't need to knock down quite as many of them, and you can avoid things like ancient woodlands and wetlands and lowlands and highlands because you can have sharper corners, you have sharper bends in the track that you can't have. Obviously, if trains are going 300 miles an hour on them, you've got to be quite, tapered if you're going that fast. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Softy Sunak sacking Raab? That's from Scott. Well, I was about to come on to that, so let's talk about it. This is really interesting. Now, if this report into numerous cases of bullying, not just one, numerous cases of bullying, by Dominic Raab, the Deputy Prime Minister, and former Foreign Secretary until the absolute debacle of Afghanistan, when, don't forget, he was sitting on the beach. He was sitting on a beach while British citizens were dying. Because that's, Dominic Raab for you. He said he didn't want to be interrupted. He was sunbathing. Ugh. The idea of him sunbathing is quite grotesque, but there you go. So we've got a little bit of history here. Let's go back a little bit. Don't forget, Priti Patel, our former Home Secretary, who no one thought could get any worse, but then she did. She became Suella Braverman. She was in a similar report that was put together by an independent investigator. They looked at what she'd done and they declared that she had been guilty of bullying, which goes against the ministerial code. which is a code of conduct that all politicians have to sign up to. And this is someone who's, sorry, not all politicians, all ministers have to sign up to. And she was a minister. And she was found guilty of the crime. And yet, she was told that she didn't have to resign by Boris Johnson. Because Boris Johnson couldn't sack anyone from his cabinet for anything. Because what he had done was far worse. Much more egregious. Is that the way you say it? I don't know. I'm not using that word again. It was much more worse of it than what anyone else had done. So if he sacked them, then he would have to resign, usually for similar reasons. So he didn't sack her. So instead, the actual civil servant who was in charge of putting together the case to say that she was a bully and she was guilty of bullying resigned instead. Yeah. And also, one of the civil servants who she bullied got a massive payout. Paid by you and me. That's right, a private citizen in this country is a bully to their staff. One of their staff leaves, takes it to a tribunal to say, hey, this is not right. You've bullied me out of my job that I've been in for X many years. And the tribunal finds in their favour. And what do? They say, okay, we're going to pay this money. Does it come from the Conservatives? No. Does it come from Priti Patel's back pocket? No. No, it doesn't. Does Boris Johnson borrow £800,000 off a mate through a guy from the BBC? Does that all happen? No. It comes from you and me, British taxpayers. Nice. So anyway, so that's the background of this. So what's happened yesterday is that Dominic Raab has obviously been found guilty of some bullying. Maybe there's 8 cases and 4 of them say he wasn't bullying and 4 of them say that he was. They don't cancel themselves out. All the days that you go without murdering someone do not cancel out the days that you do murder people. It doesn't work like that. If he has been found guilty of at least 1 count of bullying in the workplace, then he must resign. He must be sacked. Now, he said that he was going to resign if found guilty of bullying. He's not resigned. And don't forget, if this report had completely exonerated Dominic Raab, we would know about it. They wouldn't be sitting on it. They are currently in discussion with the publishers of the helpful Tory client press, the Tory Sewage Party client press at the Express and the Mail, neither of which wrote a word about this saga on their front cover of their newspapers today. The Mail was going off on one about, I don't know, maybe they dug up Princess Diana or something. And the Express was expressly being transphobic. Yeah, that's because, culture wars. That's all we've got left now. So let's pick on trans people. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. It's all a bit much, isn't it? It's all a bit much. I watched a lovely video today on TikTok, and it was a neuroscientist who was talking about how to deal with trolls online and bullies, basically. And what she said was that you have to... you in yourself have to be nice to people and do some acts of kindness because you need to rebalance your feeling about the people of the world. So I thought this was really interesting because when I traveled all around the world, I went to every single country in the world and I couch surfed everywhere. I took local public transport everywhere. And I met people literally from every country in the world. And pretty much everyone was lovely. Everyone was lovely. And so that means that my view of humanity as a whole is generally quite high. But if that view of humanity becomes negative, then it impacts your mental health, it impacts your well-being, and can lead to depression and other mental health problems. So I've always tried to keep my, spirit up. And also, if there are bullies or trolls online, I tend to block them and just walk away and concentrate on the nice messages that you're no doubt putting into the message. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, but messages over here. And the idea that someone who was, that I employed bullied people. I got a report, it took 5 months to put together saying that this person bullied people. And then I sat on it and didn't make a decision. It's so insulting, not just to the people of the United Kingdom. Obviously, everything the Tory Sewage Party's been doing for the last 13 years is insulting to the people of the United Kingdom. But the people who were bullied, the people who put in the complaints, how must they feel right now? Oh, well, he's obviously been found guilty of something, but we're going to mull over it. And it's disgraceful and totally emblematic of the Tory Sewage Party and everything they stand for, which is nothing. All they want to do is knock things down. They don't stand for anything. They want to knock it down. They want to destroy it. They want to take everything that is good and crush it in their tiny little fingers. Anyway, talk of attack by Russia. Not sure we're up to defending ourselves anymore. That's pretty true. That's from Plum Duff. So cross about United Utilities, capitalism in action. Well, Jeremy, the socialist jug. You're absolutely right, because this is capitalism. It's pure capitalism. Do you see in the film Fight Club, right? In that, the narrator, whose name you really never find out, but he might be called Jack, he says that he works for a company that evaluates whether it's worth doing product recalls on automobiles, on cars. Okay, so if there's a car and there's a problem, the brakes fail, how many people is that going to kill? How often is it going to happen? How many people is it going to kill? How much money are you going to have to pay out to the family of the person who dies? Okay, that's the equation. And then you that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is how much will it cost to recall all the cars and fix the problem? And if it's going to cost more to recall all the cars and fix the problem, they won't recall the cars. They'll just let people die. And this is an equation that car companies and other big conglomerates have made around the world for years. And now we're seeing it with our water companies. Now, in the past, when we were part of the EU, there were tighter regulations on how much raw effluent you could put into our water courses. Now we're not part of the EU. That's gone. And the fines that these companies get are absolutely minuscule compared with the cost of cleaning up the sewage, or even this, not pumping the sewage into the rivers in the first place. Wow. And I just want to point out that this problem was foreseen, as so many things were, by our friend Kieran, the van driver, who was on James O'Brien this week. I don't know if you heard it. He pointed out absolutely ages ago that if we went in for a no-deal Brexit, we would have trouble getting the chemicals into the country, because he used to courier chemicals into the country. He can't anymore because we've left the EU and the regulations are different. But there are certain chemicals that are used to treat sewage, so you can discharge it safely. And yeah, we wouldn't be able to get that. So he had flagged that up already, but that was more to do with if we have no deal with the EU. We do have a deal with the EU, except the water companies, the monopolised water companies, the communist, monopolised, socialist, woke, what other pejorative do the right like to use? The snowflake, there you go, that's a good word. The snowflake water companies are not prepared to make the hard decision to do the right thing. No, they're going to take the cowardly decision to make do the more lucrative thing. They will pay the fines because the fines are less than having to clean up their own mess. And that's why we shouldn't have this system in our country, where we have a privatised water system and you have no choice in the matter of who supplies you with your water. Because I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of us that if there were two companies and one said, hey, we're going to pump your rivers full of shit, and the other company said, hey, we're going to treat all your sewage, but charge you a little bit more. But, we're going to treat your sewage. I would go with the one that charge a little bit more, because I do actually care about the environment. I do actually care about the future of your children and other people's children. Do you know what I mean? I want this country to be nice. To be nice in the future. Wouldn't that be good? Jeremy says, if I was suspended as a bully at work, I would have been suspended. He's still there. He's a nasty individual. Yeah. Sunak is telling us the only way out is to remove corrupt Tories, to vote Tories out. That works for me. We have to be brutally honest about Patel and Braverman and call them racists. Their own skin colour doesn't make them less likely to be so. They're both hateful individuals. That's from Nick and Diff. They hide behind their skin colour, which is uncomfortable for me to say as a white guy, as a white middle-class English-speaking white guy. But it does feel very much like they get away with stuff that no way would anyone get away with if they were white. And isn't that interesting? Because that's one of the things that racists like to whinge about all the time. Oh, positive discrimination. You discriminate against people. They're not as good at the job and they get the job. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't have a problem with positive discrimination. I'd like to see more positive discrimination. I would like to see positive discrimination against people who went to private schools. So, like, basically, we discriminate against them in any given job, and they can have 7% of any jobs or seats on boards or positions as MPs or seats in the cabinet. Not 66%, ladies and gentlemen, 7%. That's your maximum. Everyone else has to come from state schools. That's the kind of positive discrimination I want to see. Anyway, my dad was a bully. You learn to avoid them if you can. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, Plum Duff. That must have been awful. Jeremy says, often people who are out of their depth at work become bullies to cover up their own ineptitude. Yep, that sounds like the Tories to me. The worst part is that that people spoke up were named in the report. Oh my God, Eddie, I didn't even know that. That's awful. Rob says, the level river runs along the back of my house and has recently increased with the rain. There's been large amounts of foam, which I can only shoot a detergent from sewage. Yeah, even in the weir that runs through Durham, you know, that lovely sort of curve that goes around, the sharp hairpin turn that goes around the cathedral and castle in Durham, if you've ever been here. If you ever go past on the train on the way up to Edinburgh from King's Cross Station on the Hogwarts Express, or the LNER as it's known these days, if you're looking out the right-hand side as you go through Durham, it's an absolutely beautiful view because you're right up on a viaduct and you get to see over the city. Beautiful. Anyway, in our river, the weir, there are weirs. There's weirs on the weir, and they're pretty foamy. They're a lot more foamy than they used to be. Never seen them quite so foamy before. Maybe it's salmon roe. I don't know, but maybe it's not. It's kind of brown. I was bullied by sexual orientation. I'm really sorry to hear that, David. And that, again, it's something that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And yet, that kind of attitude is being absolutely amplified by the Tory party and by the tabloids as acceptable. They think that it's okay to bully transgender children. Transgender children who, young people who are transgender, have one of the highest rates of suicide attempts of any minority, because they don't feel like they're accepted in society at the get-go. And then every day there is this just all-out assault on trans people, and it is just painful. It's like, there's people on the left who think of themselves as good people, and they're joining in with this fascist, crazed witch hunt against trans people. Like, trans people are the worst. You can't assume they're innocent. You've got to assume they're guilty of all crimes ever. I don't know why, but... And it's exactly the same as what gay people had to put up with in the 70s and 80s. With people who say, I'm a Christian and I disagree with your lifestyle. I love you. I absolutely I love the sinner. I hate the sin and all this nonsense. And it's relentless. I find it relentless. As a non-trans cisgender man, I find it relentless. I mean, if you are transgender, I can only imagine just how horrific it must be. But just know that you do have allies. You do have friends. You do have people who are sticking up for your side of this argument. I mean, there shouldn't even be an argument. The argument is this. This is a trans debate in a nutshell. Should trans people exist? That's what they're debating. And I say yes. If you say no, then I don't really want anything to do with you. No offense. No, actually, loads of offense. Take the offense. Take it. Stick it in a backpack. Put it in a museum if necessary. Take all your offense and get the hell out of my life. Anyway, moving back on to the chat. Oh, I got a super chat from Reagan Elite. Thank you very much, Reagan. We got £2. Raab has gone, just broke. Oh, what? Oh my God, he's gone. He's out of here. Quickly. Oh, Dominic Raab resigns over bullying report. Shit. Okay, well, there it is in black and white. Dominic Raab has resigned. He's gone. He's out of here. He has vacated the building. There it is. That's the front page of the BBC website at the moment. Dominic Raab. Oh, you can't actually see it because it says Morning Brew in the corner. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody. I'll try and sort that out in a moment. Oh, right. So while I was banging on about bullying, he is actually out of here. He has gone. Breaking news for people joining us. on there we go, Dominic Raab. Okay, there we go. And I'll make myself smaller. I'll make myself smaller and put myself in the corner. There you go. Hello. It's amazing what you can do with technology. Dominic Raab resigns over bullying report. The Deputy Prime Minister resigns but hits out at the inquiry into bullying allegations about him, saying its findings are flawed. Oh my God, whatever. So this is it on the BBC website, live. Dominic Raab resigns over bullying report. Raab hits out at flawed findings against him. That you couldn't make it up, could you? The inquiry has set dangerous precedent. What, that you shouldn't be a bully, Dominic? That you shouldn't bully people? Is that the dangerous precedent? Right, all right, mate, whatever. Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab has resigned from the government. In his resignation statement published on Twitter, Dominic Raab takes an aim at the inquiry, saying, in setting the threshold for bullying so low, this inquiry has set a dangerous precedent. It will encourage spurious complaints against ministers and have a chilling effect on those driving change on behalf of your government. No, mate, you're a bully and you've been brought to account. My God, isn't this absolutely disgraceful? This is my resignation statement. Here we go. This is resignation statements from Dominic Raab. I'm writing to resign from... Oh, shit. Press the wrong button there. I'm writing to resign from your government. Following receipt of the report arising from the inquiry... and undertook to resign if any finding. I called for the inquiry and undertook to resign if it made any findings of bullying whatsoever. I believe it's important to keep my word. So you're saying that any findings of bullying whatsoever? That's the word you've used there, mate. Whatsoever. Oh no, it wasn't really bullying. He goes on to say, in setting the threshold for bullying so low, this is at the bottom here. I've just read it. This inquiry sets a dangerous precedent. Because ministers must be able to give direct critical feedback on briefings and submissions to senior officials in order to set the standards and drive the reform that the public expect of us. The reform. You've been in charge for 13 years, you twonk. Anyway, so that's Dominic Raab. He's now the former person from the what's it called? The former Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister. So basically, if Sunak fell over, he wouldn't have to fall very far. He's only little. This is the guy who will take over the country. This is Dominic Raab. He take over the country, and he's been found to have bullied, and here he is saying he behaved professionally at all time. Here's Claire Rayner over here saying, what is he still doing? Sorry, not Claire. Bloody hell. Agony aunt. Angela Rayner. Cut that. Oh my God, this is live. Okay, so listen, I am going to go because two reasons. One, I'm sure you want to hear what James O'Brien has to say about all this. I know I do. And so you'll be heading over to LBC soon. And let's just turn that off. I'll just go back to me. I can't say I'm flabbergasted, but yeah, that's kind of derailed what I was. It's not actually. It took the fact that it took this long for the guy to resign. You've obviously had some back and forth there, haven't you, between him and the Prime Minister? There's a lot to get into in this. There's a lot to get into. What has gone on here? Because this reporter said he's been a bully, right? So that must have been yesterday. It must have said he's a bully, right? That's already been established by this report that was given to Raab and given to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's called him in and said, listen, it's found that you're a bully, you have to resign. And Raab has said no. Until the pressure became too great. That is the Tory sewage party to a T. An absolute to a T. Reagan's given £2. Raab has just gone. Just broke. Fantastic. Thank you very much for the super chat there. I really need it. Oh my God, what's going on here? Raab resigned, just a few hundred to go. Indeed. The Tories love to copy the American Republican Party. They're the same as the GOP. They absolutely are. He's resigned. Softy Sunak didn't have the bottle to sack him. Yeah, which is another amazing black mark against Rishi Sunak's record there, the record of integrity. He said he was going to bring back integrity into government. Yeah, right, mate, whatever. Wonder what James will be talking about on LBC, lol. And then, David's talking about his experiences being bullied, which we should do a whole show about that, David, about bullying in general and trolls and horrible online comments and the way people interact and the way people feel empowered to interact. And also the fact that a lot of bullies don't really realise that they're bullying a lot of the time because no one's pointed it out to them that it's wrong. And that's a failure of parenting and a failure sometimes of teachers in schools. But when you have schools where you have a don't say gay bill, or teachers in schools where you're under clause 28, like I grew up in the UK, the teacher can't admonish you for being that way, for being transphobic or being homophobic. Which is great, I suppose, if you're horrible. On that bombshell of the news, I have a good day. Good day to you all. If Jacob Rees-Mogg becomes deputy PM, I'll break things, says MJ Nichols. Thanks, Graham, for today's show. Claire Vayner might not be such a bad idea for Rob. He definitely needs counselling. He does indeed. Barry says, I'd like to know the level of Rob's involvement when Foreign Secretary to help Anthony Scalola's escape when she killed Harry Dunn. That was the American diplomat's wife who ran over a British kid, actually. He was only young. He was only a teenager. And she killed him. And then she fled the country. Angela Rayner will be sad to lose her sparring partner. Indeed. Sean says he gets the last word on this. Now we see the cause of the worldwide zip shortage. I don't really get that, but okay. So thank you very much for joining me. Later on today, there's going to be a new episode of a show called The Intersection with me and Hannah Janes and Supertansky, where we're going to be talking about feminism in this episode. It's called The Intersection because it's about intersectionality. And what are you doing presenting a show about intersectionality, Graham? Being a white middle-class cisgender man? Very good question. You need to watch the show. And there's going to be more of them. So that'll be going up in the next couple of hours, depending on how long it takes to upload onto YouTube. And over the weekend, we should be getting the next pubcast, which I did with the MP Bill Esterson last week. And and I'll be back on Monday for another morning brew. And I'll oh, what's this? Raab seems far too vacuous to understand what a bully is, but he's still an MP. Well, that's my point, isn't it, George, about the fact that a lot of these people don't realise they're bullies. You know, I don't think psychopaths realise they're psychopaths. And on that bombshell, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you over listening to LBC in a moment. And until then, until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.